Hello, my friends. Welcome to Omnia Vincit Amor. My name is Francisca, and in this episode, we're gonna explore a little bit the perspective of how to heal from childhood abuse, how to be able to heal from old trauma, and to give this perspective that the physical and emotional healing might not be enough. If you want to break free from these chains of your past, and you want to find inner peace and your true purpose in life, and this connection to the universe and the connection you once had. If you want to really find that, it needs more than just this kind of therapy healing. It needs spiritual freedom, and in this video I want to take you on this little journey. What I mean by that, what are the consequences of childhood abuse in the first place, why we need to heal from it. I give you a little personal story as well, where I had a really intense breakthrough moment, which is years ago, but it kind of really changed so many things, even if it was so subtle. And I want to give you some empowerment, encouragement in this episode. And for me, it's really important that because it's a really sensitive topic. It's really a topic where even it can be scratched on the surface somehow when you did not deal so much with this topic of childhood abuse, or with your past, or with your trauma. So it can be triggering, of course. I want to be trauma sensitive because I know how this topic needs to be treated in a sensitive way. But I'm also a person who calls things out. Like, we cannot just, talk around the topic and then here and there. I'm like, we have to talk about it. We have to talk about the truth. And so I'm asking you to take care of yourself. If something gets too heavy, or you feel uncomfortable or something, then maybe just come back to the video later. Or what I always suggest is taking a cup of tea and then sit down and deal with these topics, especially when it's your first time, or when you kind of just started this journey of healing, and you kind of just on the edge of looking towards your past. So it can be really sensitive. So take care of yourself, listen to your feelings, to your needs. And yes, then I'm about to dive in. I'm happy for you that you're here. I'm happy that you take this time to listen to something what is about you and your healing journey, your inner self, because that's the most important thing in the world, because everything builds up on that. If the foundation is not right, then you cannot build a strong house, so to say. So yes, let's dive in and explore the topics of childhood abuse, and in the perspective of spiritual freedom and healing from that. So see you in a bit. So my friends, the first thing I wanna, because I read a statistics, and it kind of really blew my mind. I didn't even know that it was that bad. I read the statistic that from the World Health Organization, that 1 billion children between the age of 7 and 12 were either physically, sexually, or emotionally abused in the last year. And I was like, 1 billion? Are you kidding me? This is like so many. And of course you can say, yeah, that's not in our, Europe, or, the United States, or the kind of countries. It always happens like in India and Africa and Asia. And of course, no, it's not. It's like so much everywhere. and it happens in the middle of everything. It happens in the middle of us. It's just that we don't know it because it's hidden. It's hidden. Domestic violence, childhood abuse, children abuse. Of course, you don't see it. How are you supposed to see it? What happens between the walls is what happens there. And then, of course, people come out and like, yeah, everything's fine, da da da. So it's hidden, but this number, 1 billion, it's worldwide. So it's not just in these kind of third world countries, it's everywhere. And for these people, and if you clicked on the video, you might be one of them, if this topic interests you, that you know it's not just somewhere else, it's everywhere. Because dysfunction, toxicity, trauma that travels through generations, it's not just somewhere else. It's in European households, like in United States households or wherever. And yes, I want to dive in a little bit about what the consequences are. I mean, we have different kinds of abuse, and just for me to have it said, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a like professional in this way that it's a spider. Maybe she's coming to the screen. she's crawling to the phone. Yeah, there are different kinds of abuse. I mentioned physical abuse, of course, when your body is abused, beaten up, a slap here, a slap there, everything that affects your body. Sexual abuse, of course, if it's of course also your body, but in a more specific way. When and by the way, sexual abuse is not just when somebody touches your body. It's the spectrum is so wide. It can be a comment, just a comment from a relative, like, for example, you're at this family gathering, and then an elder family relative looks at you in this look and like, you have a nice short skirt and da 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 da, and you feel this energy of like, oh my god, this is so disgusting. And so sexual abuse is a huge spectrum. Not just, it does not have to be rape and real full on somebody else touches your body. It can be the sexual energy. If you feel like somebody touched you even though they didn't touch you, that's also like abuse in this. And of course there's like this power dynamic when there's like a more powerful person, and you are, as a child or as a woman, you feel less powerful, or you're less, you physically you don't have so much to do against that. And then of course we have emotional abuse, which I think is so underrated because it's not visible. The emotional abuse is first, it's not really visible. You don't have blue marks on your face compared to, and also even if you have been physically abused, there are usually no marks. Like when you, for example, you get beaten up as a 5-year-old kid, there are no really signs. You go to school the next day and you look normal. You don't have like scratches or whatever. So it's all really hidden. And this is also the huge problem we have in our world, that so many things are still hidden. Nobody talks about it. And this has so many reasons why nobody talks about it. But I will come to that in another video maybe. So we have emotional abuse, which is of course neglect, gaslighting. The whole narcissistic thing comes into emotional abuse. Or you get pushed. You just are worthy when you do good grades, when you are, things like you come home and you have a problem and you get laughed at, or you're going to be even bullied in your own family and being left out. You're always the scapegoat. Emotional abuse spectrum range is huge as well. I will not dive into that now. I mean, and by the way, the word abuse, so many years, or just in the last years, for me, it was really getting clear. But like, if you would have asked me maybe 10 years ago, I could have told you my story and what happened, and the people are going to be shocked. Like, oh my God, this happened to you. But for me, it was always like, yeah, my past. I don't know. Because back in the day, I was not connected to the pain. I was not connected to the pain of the whole experiences. I was still in the dissociative state. I was still numbing it out. I was still not looking at it. This is why I was able to talk about it as if there would be like another person in another universe. I'm like, yeah, this happened to me, but yeah, it was not, it was so weird. It felt like I'm talking about somebody else's life. And maybe if you have experienced, wait, I have to sit comfortable because my leg is falling asleep. You know, nature. And my tripod was giving up on the battery, so I have to kind of improvise and put the phone in the middle of a little hill. So, and this video is about the spiritual freedom that, in my perspective, in my opinion, is necessary for the holistic healing, for completely breaking free of the past, and live your purpose and live your own life and feel as yourself again. And this is it's such a tricky, because when you're still in this dissociative state, like what I explained from, for example, me 10 years ago, when I was talking about the abuse that happened, but I did not have the feeling I'm talking about myself. I have had the feeling I'm talking about somebody else. You're not connected to these feelings, and this is also a really important part of our ego, which makes sense to protect us from pain. Because if you feel everything always, it's too much. You cannot live. Like, there was this time, or this point in our lives, or probably many points, where our system decided to numb things out, to dissociate. And this happens subconsciously. You don't decide that. To numb it out so we can live, we can like finish school, we can find a job. Otherwise, when these emotions and the whole dysfunction and this consequences of the abuse, if you leave that, if the immensity of it, if you leave that in your life, you could not find a job, you could not make school, you it's just too much. So it's really clever from evolution to numb these things out. So like, okay, even to this extent that you completely forget about things. And I can confirm that as well. I was aware of many things that happened, but in the last 5 years in my really intense healing journey, so many emotions and memories came back that I was like, I did not even have a clue that this was still there. And this is really an important and an dynamic of our system, to hide these things away. But it's also, of course, what makes, it's a process into the subconscious. So superficially, you can live a normal life. You can find a job, you make people start families, even get successful, whatever, all this kind of stuff. But subconsciously, it's not resolved at all. So, and the pressure builds up, and there comes this time in everybody's lives. I'm convinced that the pressure comes more, and at some point you have to look at it, especially when you realize you want to somehow break free, or you end up in always the same patterns, and you realize, I want to break free, I want to live my life, I want to be me again, and I want to live my life free. And then you realize you really cannot break free. You like, it's like running against walls. And this is why it takes, in my perspective, in my opinion, it takes as a spiritual, like a spiritual journey to find your inner self and to find healing and inner peace. And the the challenges of emotional and psychological abuse that happened in the past is, of course, substance abuse. So substance abuse, this is, was for me many years alcohol. Was my first, when I was 13, I started to drink pretty heavily. Latest at like 15, 16, it was like, vodka, tequila, and all this kind of stuff. Quite really regularly and in big amounts, which of course led to more problems. It's like, because it's complex. When you experience childhood abuse, it's usually really complex. That's why it's complex PTSD. So the whole childhood dynamic comes into play with the siblings, maybe the parents, and narcissistic stuff. It's so many complex things. Then you start the compensation strategies, coping mechanism like drinking. Of course, leads to other problems. You're going to be worse in school because you cannot focus anymore, or you can even focus less than before, because when you are abused at home, your nervous system is on high alert the whole time. You're not relaxed like other kids, and they go to school like, yeah, I'm gonna look at the math and language and English and art. Your nervous system is not in balance. It's under high stress. And I'm talking about, for example, this age of, let's say, 13, 14, 15. When the abuse started, even when you were a little tiny kid, like 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagine by that age already all these suppressed emotions, because of course when you're in a dysfunctional family, you cannot show your emotions, or your emotions are always punished. And by that point already, it's already, you already traumatized already. Then you start the coping mechanisms. Maybe you have affairs with a lot of guys to get this attention or this love that you were missing from outside. So substance abuse for women, or I don't know about boys. Of course, they also go into this violent mode, and so there's so many coping mechanisms that we see everywhere that people are doing, but it's like normal, like drinking. It's kind of socially so much accepted in a weird way that it even blows my mind. This feeling of being trapped was for me always a big thing. Like this feeling trapped in my own skin. I cannot escape. I'm trapped in myself. I want to escape me, because you feel that the source of the pain is you. You try to escape, you drink, you go to party, and you study a lot, or you kind of get an overachiever career. I don't know, people, they like take work as a coping strategy. But you realize you cannot escape yourself. And this was for me, for example, when I went on my world trip. I kind of, far away from Germany, far away. But then I realized it's not ending. It's not ending. The misery, the depression, the stuff that comes out, it's still there. It was forcing me to look at it. It was like in my whole life, it was always forcing me to look at it. And thankfully so, because nature and the universe always strives for harmony. And when you have trapped emotions and you have trauma in your system that is not processed, life gives you these challenges and all this stuff, so you can release it and work through it. Of course, big one, struggle with self-acceptance, deep-seated shame, like really deep-seated shame that you're not good enough. And in this new age spirituality is like a lot of I am good enough, and the feeling you're not good enough. But it's so. And if you would have told me 5 years ago, do you have a feeling of not being good enough? Then I would logically reply, no, I think I'm quite okay. Da 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 da. Of course, this is what we tell ourselves, because, and this is another topic in itself, this shame. And many years I didn't even know what the word shame means. I'm like, what do you mean shame? And it's this deep feeling that something is deeply and inherently wrong with me. The world, everybody else gets it. Everybody else is apparently able to function, to live a normal life, and I'm the only weird one where something is just so wrong that I cannot function in this world, and I have to kind of hide it. I have to kind of try to fit in. I have to try to mask this feeling of it's shame. I'm not good enough. Self-acceptance. This is a big one, big challenge for many people. And it's this toxic shame and not feeling good enough, of course, causes so many other issues again. There's always layers and layers. One thing is built. So you have one thing and you try to cover it up with another thing, but then you have this thing and you try to, and you have this kind of construct of mental issues stuff. And of course you'd like to, nobody knows that, and this is also a big part of the shame. You don't want anybody to see what you think is the real you, the depressed you, the crying you, the I'm the victim, I'm crying in the night because nobody loves me. The next day you feel so ashamed and embarrassed about yourself. Then you take your phone, you go on Tinder, let's have a coffee, because you want to feel normal. You want to feel everything is fine. Like, you want to feel everything. Why is not everything is fine? And the whole time you think you are the problem. For so many years, I was completely convinced that I am the problem. I am wrong. This is why nothing works. And this is a huge, because this is so deep. This is so deep that everything what builds on that is not correct, because this deep-seated belief, I'm not good enough for myself, for my parents, for the world, for God. I'm not good enough. I'm weird. It's better maybe I would not exist. So yeah, this one, of course, you're also gonna repeat abusive relationships. So this is also a big struggle, that when you did not look at your trauma and you're still unaware of it. Unaware means it's still subconscious. You don't know that it runs the show. You don't know that it's ruling your life, because it's all still subconscious. You think that all the situations that come towards you are just new situations and you get treated badly, and this always confirms back the belief you already have deep inside that you're not good enough. You meet this guy, he's really nice in the beginning, he's love bombing you, giving you all the gifts, and it's beautiful. He takes you to nice places, great humor, charming guy. But then after a while, the old patterns come through again. The yes, the abuse in the relationship starts to come up again. First it's subtle, little comments here and there about, oh my god, guys, my leg, I cannot. Little comments from somebody about your behavior or your emotions, or why do you feel like that? It's a whole different topic, narcissistic abuse. It's so in a way fascinating how this works, that we go into these traps. It feels like a trap, and then you end up in this abusive relationship again, and you're like, why is this happening again? And for me, for so many years, of course it got better the more I went on my own journey of self-discovery. And this started it started a long time before that, but especially it started when I left Germany 2011. I always knew I had to leave Germany. I have to leave, get out of there, away, far away. But the inner belief patterns, of course, you take with you when you don't heal yourself. And the problem is they are subconscious, so you don't know you have them, and they rule your life. Because if you, for example, you have this deep feeling of not being good enough. Of course, outside you're beautiful, you have a good job, and you have a nice stuff, and you kind of have a good humor, and you're charming, and all this can all be, even though this underlying subconscious beliefs are there. And when I'm looking around in the world, I see so many people have this belief of not being good enough, and of course then they overcompensate. So if you have these subconscious beliefs, it's energetic. You have this, it's like in your energy field, and you kind of emanate this feeling of, I'm not being good enough. And someone is like a narcissist, or someone who has narcissistic tendencies and is also not has not a healthy attachment style, smells that. It's like it's written energetically, it's written on your forehead. I'm feeling like a victim, I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. And so this attracts each other, and this dynamic happens all over again, until you come to this point like, wait, what is going on? This has to stop. And this takes some, even at this point, even just to wake up and this has to stop. Something is wrong. Like, depending on how toxic the relationship is, if it's just emotional abuse or even physical abuse, the difference between people who are just in it and people who are in it and wake up and like, wait, it cannot go on like this. This is already a huge jump in consciousness, and a really important first step to healing and to live a life that was truly meant for you. And of course, when you're a child, you cannot leave the household, and this is why it makes it so complicated, because you cannot leave. Even though you get abused and you know it, you cannot go away, because of course they have to feed you where you're supposed to go. When I was a child, so many times I planned on escaping. I was packing my stuff. I'm like, I'm out of here. Like, fuck this. I'm out of here. This is insane. But then, where I was supposed to go? I made plans like I'm moving into this little farm. We had like maybe 20 minutes away, but then I was like, okay, but then how should I sleep in there? And then they're going to find me. And how about all my stuff from school? And I made all these plans of escaping in a really young age already. And of course, you realize you cannot. And this is for me, this was one of the biggest, this feeling of being trapped and I cannot escape, even though I know it's toxic. Then you have to kind of abandon a part of you. You have to, because you realize subconsciously as a child, I have to kind of deal with these people. I have to somehow live in this family. And you kind of make the maths. You're like, okay, now I'm 10. I can move out when I'm 18. This is 8 more years. Okay. And then of course you have to, you don't do that subconsciously. You're not sitting on your desk like, okay, I'm gonna number away all my inner child parts. They're like this is. No, of course this happens subconsciously, that we bury this part of us that is like wanting to set boundaries. The part of like, no, this is wrong. You should not beat me up as my mother, or you should not bully me as my mother. You should not laugh about me. You should not imitate me. You should not make fun of my body, or you should not make fun of about everything that I am or have or do. It should not be. But you have to live in this family environment for more 8 years or whatever. And so we get into coping mechanisms. And these coping mechanisms, people pleasing, burying down our emotions, this like our brain learns to navigate the world like this. But this inner anger and this inner frustration of wanting to set boundaries but not being able to, it stays. It's not disappearing somewhere. And this is what causes so many people, when they get older and they feel this inner pressure on this inner, like something is unresolved. It's like every human has this feeling of something is wrong. But the big thing is, not you are wrong, but the whole conditioning, the whole trauma responses are what is disturbing, and not you in your core. And this is a huge difference. Like I'm always like to, like a circle. So you have this little spot in the middle. That's you. Your inner light, your divine spark, that is you, who came here on this planet for a reason, because the nature doesn't make mistakes on like, oh, a human was born, we don't know what to do with it. There's a reason. And there's like this inner spark that is you. And what is around that is this personality, and then all these trauma patterns and this coping mechanism. It's like a big wall, a big thing of what is not you. And we have the task or the honor or the, I don't know, to peel away this stuff. And it hurts. It hurts, for sure. But when you reach the inner core and the light gets stronger and you feel like, oh yeah, this is how I felt when I was 5 or when I was, and it's so hard to explain. It's a feeling of inner health and a deep feeling of I am loved. And this is like so beautiful. And in my opinion, everything is worth doing to reach that point. Then, of course, other challenges abused people face is, of course, depression. Depression, because you numb it and you feel like you cannot cope with daily life, and because the whole system of coping mechanisms is so heavy, and sometimes you don't even know how to leave your bed, how to get up, how to in the evening to brush your teeth because you have no energy. And we don't have the energy available sometimes to deal with our lives because the suppressing of emotions and the trying of keeping it all together, it takes an immense amount of energy. Immense. To suppress stuff, to cope with our emotions, they're trying to surface, but we don't let them because we don't know how to deal with it. We are afraid to feel it because it's, of course, there's a fear of reliving that because we know how this feels. We have been there. We don't want to go there again. And depression is a huge part, and I'm so convinced that so many people who struggle from depression, anxiety, eating, I'm not like disorder. For me, like disorder is not really a word because it's not a disorder. It's, for me, the so-called disorders are a response to a toxic event, environment, whatever, but your system is coping with it in the most logical way. So this is not a disorder. It's a disorder how it unfolds in your life, of course, but in itself, it's not something is wrong with you because you're eating too much or you're depressed. It's nothing wrong with you. It's like even the opposite. Something is really right with you because your system reacts to an unhealthy relationship. For example, a child who has anger issues, because the parents are numb and not dealing with the emotions, and it's just like, don't scream, don't laugh, don't run, don't shout. This is, oh no, this is unhealthy. And the child is showing the actually healthy, more healthy, oh no. No, it's the camera is falling away. It's like, because it's like a stone. I put it on a stone. Oh yeah, there we go. Struggle is real. Where was I? So then the child is not the unnormal one, and this is like, it's so fucked up in this way, and it makes me also angry and amazed at the same time. Like, how? Like, wow, you are the one calling the dysfunction out, and then you're the weird one. You're the scapegoat. You're the problem child. You're always like, something is wrong with you, but actually you're the healthy one. And to come back to this understanding that no, it's the environment, it's them, it's not me. This is such a big journey, and in my opinion, the spiritual approach with the spiritual practices compared to the normal way of dealing with the so-called disorders, like, let's say the normal, I cannot even not say normal. The In German I know the word, but not in English. Yeah, I have to say normal. The normal way of dealing with things, of course, medication, you're going to talk therapy, and even the step to go to therapy is a huge one. But unfortunately, and I experienced that many times, talk therapy is not at all sufficient to what you have been through. And especially when you come to a therapist, they have no idea about trauma, about abuse, about all that. They have not experienced it. So they're sitting there and asking you like, do you think your problems could have anything to do with your mom or something? And you're like, I don't know. Like, so many times I was in this therapeutic settings where I realized the other person has no idea, and even giving me more the feeling of being weird. And this is the normal way of dealing with stuff, even if you come to this point to go to therapy. But usually it's medication. And I was never taking an antidepressant meds, like never. This was not an option for me. But of course, if some people see that as option for themselves, I'm not here to, of course, to judge or whatever. I was drinking alcohol like a crazy person. Instead, it's not, you know, it's the way we deal with stuff. But in 2018 and 19, when I had what I realized later was my spiritual awakening, I've had the feeling, the intuition of I first of all I need to do something, because I was in such a mess emotionally and in my world, and the repeating things that happened. I was like, I have to. It's needs to change. Something needs to change. So I started meditating. I don't know. I felt drawn to meditation. I don't know why. I didn't even know how to. I was like, and in the beginning, of course, I felt like I cannot do it. It's not for me. It's boring. Nothing's happening. It's not showing any effects. But after 6 years of doing meditation and different kinds of meditation, I can just tell you it really changed my life. It changed my life. And you can do all kinds of different meditations. But what is the most important effect or benefit of meditation is it raises your awareness, and it just not just in the meditation but then also in your daily life, your awareness of what you feel, why you feel it, when you feel it, what you think. You getting aware more of your thoughts. And this all belongs together. You get this feeling of shame. Let's say, for example, you get this feeling of shame, which I had many times in big group settings, that everybody was laughing and getting along, and I'm coming there and I'm feeling weird, and nobody is really, like, I'm the weird one, the one who doesn't fit in. Has also other reasons why I don't fit in, but let's not talk about that for now. It's more this being an outcast and nobody understands me. I always was convinced nobody understands me. And then you're in this group setting and you have this feeling of shame. It's in your body. And then automatically in your brain, because our brain is logic and wants to make sense of stuff. It's like it wants to put things into order and make sense out of stuff. So you're having this feeling of shame. So your brain tells you, yeah, nobody likes me. I'm the weird one. I better go home. So in your system, in your world, it makes sense. Even though it's not true, but it kind of makes sense. So where was I going with this point? Yeah. And meditation enables you to catch your thoughts, to catch your feelings, and to question them, to see where are they coming from. What is this chain of thoughts? And this is a really good exercise to. Or for example, you have a moment where you don't feel good, you feel sad, let's say, and then track back your thought chain why you feel sad. And this is so subtle. Like, you have to catch yourself, and these little thoughts of I did it wrong, the other person's better than me, or something like this, and it goes almost unnoticed. You go about your daily life, and usually our mind is ruling us. It's not that we are consciously thinking, but I don't want to go too deep in this topic of meditation, but it's really important. And especially when you go on your healing journey, the mind, with all these lies and these belief patterns we have, tells us all kinds of stuff the whole day. And if we are not getting aware of that, we cannot change what we're not aware of. So you have to first catch the thought of, I'm wrong, to even notice, wait, I'm thinking that I'm wrong, or that I'm a worthless piece or something. You have to catch this thought in order to even start the journey. So meditation is a big one. Then, of course, journaling, to even more and even deeper connect, to even deeper see your thought patterns, your questions, your emotions, bring it all onto paper. Like, I started writing 2019, and it really changed my life to write everything down. Even sometimes I felt like, okay, like also all the anger and all these negative emotions, when you write it down, it's so helpful because it's written, it's, you can see it in front of your eyes. And also retrospectively, when you come back, let's say a year later in your healing journey, like, and it's like this intuitive thing, and you kind of, okay, I'm gonna go to my old diary and see what I wrote there, and you're like, whoa. And you can relearn from the things that you wrote a year ago, and you can come back to this topic. It's just really, really good to write everything down. So journaling, a big thing. Again, in general, self-care practices to connect with your inner you, to really feel, what are my needs? Do I want to go to this event, or do I want to stay home? Like, really, what do you really need in this moment? Of course, your brain tells you, like, oh yeah, now I bought this nice dress, and now I'm all set up, and the sun is shining and whatever, and I want to go to this champagne event, or I don't know, it's just an example. It's, and your like your ego is kind of pushing you even to go there, because there you get maybe this attention and this approval from others. And but actually, no, you just actually want to stay home and drink tea and be home. And this is really, really difficult in this time to really feel your needs, to follow them. And then in the beginning, usually the self-judgment comes after, like, oh, why you didn't go? And this whole thing starts again. Why you didn't go? It was such a nice event, and everybody was waiting for you, and now you're like the sad bitch thing at home again and being depressed. And so the self-blame comes after, usually. But this is a phase. This kind of stuff is not lasting forever. The important thing is listening to your needs and really start taking care of yourself. Whatever is good for you, you know what feels good for you, what you like, what your body likes, what makes you feel safe, and then starting implementing these things again. Let me see. Yeah, forgiveness, of course. So there are so many spiritual practices. They go really, really deep, and it has, most of them like have to do with self-reflection. So reflection, and then of course things like forgiveness, which is a journey. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's a journey to which has different layers. But it's a big part of breaking free. I will make another video about forgiveness in itself, because it's a huge topic with many different perspectives and things to consider. But it's really important on this journey as well. And yeah, I want to share a little personal story in my own healing journey in the spiritual, since I started my spiritual journey, which I didn't even know it's a spiritual journey. I just 6 years ago knew that something had to change and everything changed. But I didn't even know I was in a spiritual journey because I had no clue back then about spirituality and all this kind of stuff. So it's just really funny. But so I was drawn in my own spiritual journey. I was drawn a lot to things like plant medicine and especially ayahuasca. I don't know. I was feeling really drawn to ayahuasca. So 2019, in my first ayahuasca ceremony, and I will not go really in detail, but what was really interesting for me in 2019, and I was born 86, so you can do the math. I was in this ceremony, and first of all, it was completely life changing. My first ayahuasca ceremony, completely life changing. I will make another video about this probably. But one of the biggest takeaways from this ceremony was, is the microphone on? Yeah. Was that I really deeply realized that the war is over. And I didn't even realize that until this point. I did not really realize that the war is over because, of course, I moved out when I was 18. Yeah. But my system and my whole being was still in war mode, was still in defense mode, was still in terror. In 2019, I just realized it's over. I'm now an adult who I can defend myself. It's over. There's nobody there beating me up anymore. And this realization was so life changing, and just to emphasize how deep these beliefs are, that we're not even realizing we have them, but they, of course, when you in the state of inner war, you go into war with the outside world and of course also with your inside world. So we have to discover that. And yeah, to maybe summarize that for today, maybe this was a lot of stuff already for one video. Yeah, that healing from childhood abuse is a hugely complex topic. If you experienced childhood abuse in whatever form, it's complex. It's, PTSD is what people have. They, for example, had an accident. It's like post-traumatic stress disorder, flashbacks and these kind of things. But complex PTSD is when there was a longer abuse or an immensely stressful environment or events that occurred many times over many years from different kind of people. It's complex because it has so many dots and so many layers. The effects of childhood abuse, of course, are devastating, and I think this is what we see in this world: is traumatized people walking around, not even knowing they're traumatized and acting out their coping mechanisms unaware of it. And it's also, we cannot judge each other, we cannot blame each other, we cannot condemn each other for our dysfunctional behavior, because it's coming from somewhere. There's a root, and we have to get to the root. And in my opinion, the spiritual approach, because it goes so deep, is the only holistic approach to really find inner peace and to really heal and to feel yourself again. So yes, actually, let me just sit in a different way. Before, I had a nice bench on the other side when my tripod was still working. Oh God. So yeah, this was is a difficult topic for sure. And yes, it's tough, but we have to talk about it. We have to really be open about it and really reflect and be honest, and honest towards ourselves, especially that, like, I'm feeling weak. I'm feeling like a victim. I feel something is in me that wants to come out, but I don't know how. I don't know how to deal with it. And this is also okay. Like, we don't have to know the answer from the beginning. The answers will come the more you go on the journey. And I will, like, this whole podcast has this purpose of helping people, supporting people who are looking for healing but don't know how, or they want to dive deeper in the spirituality. And yes, feeling whole again and feeling this childhood feeling again, the unharmed childhood feeling, the feeling you had before the stuff happened to you, that happened to you, the feeling of joy and excitement and strength, power, because it's still there. It's still there. And I know that because it was for me like this. For so many years it was buried. And when I was able to break free from all this stuff in so many years, then everybody's able to do it. We're different humans, but we're all humans. And yeah, I want to leave it at that. And if you want to share your experience with all the things I talked about, please, I would like to read about it in the comment section. If you have a question, write it in the comments. If you have a perspective, write it in the comments. I will gladly have a look. And also, if you have questions, I'm glad to answer these questions as well. And yeah, so it's a huge topic. It cannot be complete ever, not even a 1 hour video now. It's crazy. And I feel like I did not even scratch the surface. But there's going to be more videos, so it's going to be fine. Yes, I hope you could take something away from this video, that maybe something was there to inspire you, to empower you. And yeah, leave your things in the comments. Can you even see my face? Yeah, because the sun, I don't even see. Yes, I'm gladly to hear from you. And I wish you a really beautiful afternoon, day, night. Sleep well, have a good day. Take care of yourself and listen to your needs. Even though you don't even know maybe what your needs are, or that you're even allowed to have needs. But deep down, there's always this deep inner wisdom that knows. And listen to that. It's really wise. It shows you the way. It knows what's best for you. And then I will talk to you in another video. And I wish you a great day, my dears. And see you then. Namaste.